Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Nintendudez podcast. My name is Mike.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Travis.
And today we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch again. We haven't made a podcast on the Switch pretty much since its release date. And back then we talked about all like the old games like Breath of the Wild, stuff like that. But it's 2018, it's been about a year, and there's plenty of new awesome stuff coming out for the Nintendo Switch that we want to cover. There's things like the Nintendo Labo, there's plenty of new games coming out for it, all sorts of different things. The online subscription system is going to be starting in the fall now. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we can sort of address and talk about in this video. And being a Nintendo channel, I feel like it makes sense for us to sort of discuss this kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, I guess one of the things that I can start out with is, at least for me, the Switch is such a bright future ahead of it. Like, it outsold the Wii U, without Smash Bros. In about a year. Mm-hmm. But then again, that's also kind of shitting on the Wii U, but I mean, like, it's doing really well. I mean, and some of the big games that haven't even come out yet. What was it, like Bayonetta? You got Metroid Prime, the Fire Emblem and Yoshi games are still in the works, and they still have a ton of indie support, and they're bringing indie games over that are already out as well, so we get some more games. And what was the one thing that you said before about the Xbox One console, Mike? Is like the one thing it needs to be successful is what?
I don't remember.
You said games.
Games. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, games are important. Who knew?
You put me on the spot and I got scared.
But no, like, it's got a really, really bright future, and I mean, I'm really happy to see it doing so well, because I mean, especially when you have PC having a lot of cheap games come out, you would think that a hardware like this would be kind of a tough sell to make and whatnot, and they're making it easier and easier as it goes along. So it's at one point it's going to be selling itself. Like, they don't really have to put in even like trailers as much as they're going to. But I mean, yeah, that's what I think so far. I want to save some of my points for later though, but as of right now, I'm really excited to see where the Switch is right now.
Yeah, I do think, like, looking back on its first year, I think it's obvious to say that it was an absolute hit. I mean, there was a certain point, I forgot what month it ended, where people said, or they were saying that Breath of the Wild sold more copies alone than the whole Nintendo Switch, which is crazy, but I think it's a testament to how good the games are for it, that the games are so good that some people almost prioritize the games over the system. You know, they're like, I want to get this game preemptively for when I end up getting the Nintendo Switch. And so stuff like that is really cool. And it's like you said, there's plenty of other games coming out. You mentioned a lot of like the big Nintendo franchises like Metroid Prime and Kirby and stuff. But they're getting a lot of other games too, like Dark Souls Remastered is coming to the Nintendo Switch.
True.
Which I think is really cool. You said Bayonetta, but then there's also The World Ends With You, which was like a DS game from way back then. It's not really even like a franchise, but they're remastering that game, and that game's going to be coming out too. So that's another huge
the Kingdom
game.
Hearts one, right?
Yes, from
Kingdom Hearts?
Dream Drop Distance. Yep.
Just making sure.
Yeah, so I've always wanted to play that game, but I never did because it just looked weird on the DS. I was never a fan of like DS graphics. That's a whole other thing. But on the Switch, I think it'll look really awesome. But then there's also tons of indie support that it's had, and I think that's probably the biggest thing for Nintendo. Me and Nick both have been addicted to Celeste lately, which is a super awesome platform game.
So good.
Yeah, and that game actually sold more on the Switch than it did any other system. So there's plenty of that stuff. So there's plenty of positive, that you can look at for the first year.
Yeah, I do want to bring in one thing that I thought was like a really cool point. I think I already told Mike about it, but I remember hearing on an article, and when there's like people who report on video, since it's very hard to get like good gaming news, and so like especially in like articles for people who don't know a lot about the actual like video game market. And one of the things that they said that I actually thought, I think it was a Forbes article, is that one of the most powerful things, or one of the most smartest things that Nintendo did was bring in the Switch underpowered. And the more I thought about it, I was like, that's kind of true, because what is it? Outputs at like 720, 1080p. I don't know what it is. It outputs at HD, but there's not going to be any demand for like these crazy 4K resolution games. And it's just like, honestly, that's kind of a good thing. In my mind, I don't really care about the difference between HD and 4K. You can obviously tell the difference between like the 64-bit graphics and like the other through like 480p whatever. But I mean, they're not trying to do that. And going a complete different route than the market, it's still challenging the market to adapt. And it's still challenging it to really get to the point where it kind of gives it the more, okay, you can go for graphics, you can go for top-of-the-line controls, whatever, but that does not really even matter, I guess. It's one of those things where the game should be what matters. Right. The way you play it is what matters. It's not just graphics are what's going to make the game. The graphics on the Switch are amazing. but they're not trying to do it. And I kind of think that's one of the smart things to do so when everybody else in Microsoft and Sony are going that route. So I don't know. I thought that was a really cool point. So wonder what you guys think of that.
Well, it's like they said, I saw someone say it on a video a while ago. A game can have great graphics, but 10 years down the road, you're not going to go back and play a game because it looks pretty. Because 10 years in the future, all these HD graphic games are going to be irrelevant. They're going to be ugly. So, yeah, I think Nintendo focusing on everything else is huge. Because, sure, you can focus on the graphics, but graphics are going to go bad eventually. But gameplay doesn't. It's the reason we go back to games like Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, stuff like that. Not because they're beautiful, because those games are hideous nowadays, but they're fun to play. And that's what Mario Odyssey nails. That's what Breath of the Wild nails, is these games are all fun to play. Graphically, they're pretty beautiful still, but that's not like the selling point for those games. And so I agree. I think that's huge. It makes them fun to play.
And one of the things that I think is so cool, and the reason was because I remember Travis just was saying that he was playing Mario and Rabbids, the crossbreeding support between the games too. I want to see more of that. Like, I know Mario and Rabbids wasn't a game that like hooked me initially, but when you see two like big communities like collaborating like that, I want to see more of that, and I want to see like a potential maybe like because I mean I know they tried it with Zelda and Dynasty Warriors, didn't work out so well, but Mario and Rabbids was, I would consider, a pretty big hit. And then I would maybe want to see one with like Yoshi and I don't know. Like, I just want to see some kind of, like, crossbreeding between games, because I think that's another thing that they can expand on and do a lot of good on for the Switch. Because, what was it, Travis? You said you weren't even, like, playing, you wouldn't even, like, consider playing a game like Mario and Rabbids before, but now you got it because you're, like the Switch is one of those things where it wants to make you try different kinds of games, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I haven't been, like, too big onto, like, strategy games, but, like, I used to really enjoy them back when I was in high school. And then I just kind of got lazy about it. Because I tried getting into Fire Emblem Sacred Stones.
Yeah.
And then you told me I killed one of the best people later on. So then I quit on it. Because I'm like, well...
I'm pretty sure you killed Ross, dude. Ross is so good.
Yeah, that one.
In Fire Emblem, I'll just say this. The base stack, or the stack gross, are lower base stats, but better stack gross, become such good characters in the end. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I killed him because I got crit really bad, and so then I'm like, well, I don't feel like going back. So Mario Rabbids is nice because, you know, I can just nice and relax do it, and if someone dies, then I can just restart that battle and no harm, no foul, if I want to perfect it, or I can just try to still beat it and then move on and not care about 100%ing it or whatever. But
yeah,
I definitely own the weirdest library on my Switch compared to any other system I have, including my PC. Because
really, that's a large library.
Okay, well, just to scroll through what I'm looking at on my home screen right now, is I have Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Rabbids, Binding of Isaac, Overcooked, ARMS, Splatoon 2, Blaster Master 0, Snipper Clips, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and then Hulu. Because I forget I have Hulu.
And then Hulu.
Yeah. So it's like only a handful of those games even somewhat relate to each other, and I love it.
Yeah, and it, like the variety that it gives is just so good. And I mean, I love the fact that like they started with the classics, that what they knew they were gonna sell. They started with Breath of the Wild. They gave Mario Odyssey in the holiday season and whatnot. They gave you ones that were going to sell well, but this other big games are very different than that. And so it's kind of easy to be drawn into like the pool of first-person shooter games that are out nowadays. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to have it, but when you have such a big variety too, it just appeals to so many different audiences. So, like the transition, Mike, of appealing to different audiences, ready to talk about the Labo?
Yeah, because this is something that's a little bit up and down, I think. You want me to start?
I'll give one of the things that I think about when I talk about the Labo. So, I mean, you know how when they announced the direct or the video is basically saying it was going to be it was advertised something that's not young adults for, and so at least from what I've seen, when they did a great job marketing the Switch, by the way, a very good job. Wii U, absolute shit marketing. I'm sorry, there's no way or no sugarcoating it. But for the Switch, they knew the people who grew up playing these games, and they advertised it for young adults. It was almost perfect for our audience. There were still other games to play if you're younger or whatnot, but it was really marketed to the young adults, people who are like maybe just starting out on their own as kind of like an entertainment device. Very good job. And now with the Labo, they're targeting a younger audience. So it's, first of all, I think it's an amazing idea. People joke about it all the time about like how it's just basically cardboard, but do you guys remember Legos? Legos are the shit. Like, I remember, like, Legos got so, like, almost all of my money when I was younger either went to gum or Legos. I'm not even joking. Like, those were the best things. Those were the best things ever when I was a kid. Also candy, but that's not the point. But kids love building things, and they love electronics. You see kids messing around with their phones all the time. Combining both of those into one thing and having it as a marketable product that I'll go into some of the other advantages later, it's just brilliant. I'm sorry. I don't see it like a big downside at all. That's just me.
The only big downside is that, from what I've heard, these things are actually really hard to put together. I think one of them they said can take almost over an hour to like fold into the proper shape. And like these adults got to test it out, and they said that some of them were really easy. Like I think the fishing rod they said was really easy to set up, took like 15 minutes. But some of them they said actually take a really long time. And so I think there is that up and down of, if you're a kid, are you going to be able to solve this? And like obviously you need your parents, but then, you know, even for parents it can be kind of difficult to set up. So I think once it's all set up, it's a great idea. I think the way it is, and I guess you have to have it this way because you have to like box it a certain way, so you have to like sort of undo and fold it, because you can't just sell it as like a giant fishing rod, you know, it's something you have to kind of build yourself. So I think that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it helps with packaging, but then it's also harder to set up. And so I think that can be somewhat of a turnoff for people, because it's like, that looks too complicated to set up. There's no way my kid will be able to figure this out, yada, yada.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah?
That's what an instruction booklet's for. You think all those Lego things they would have been able to do on their own? If you can follow directions, I think it won't be as big of an issue.
Well, the difference between Legos and the Labo is Legos is you're not told to build something. Legos are build whatever you want, but that's not what the Labo
No, like
is.
what I'm talking like the Lego, like the Star Wars like ships that you make.
Yeah,
like
but
it comes in a kit.
I don't know, but for Legos, I always thought the fun was to do it yourself more than anything. I don't know.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I was just thinking about like the Lego models as they come in that package, and when they come in that packaging and whatnot. And I mean, I guess it's kind of like what we usually do. Actually, it's actually weird that now that you're the skeptical one and I'm the optimistic one on this. But I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you that it can be an issue if it's kind of harder to assemble. But I think that if you have practice on some of them, it wouldn't be too big of an issue. And I think that might more speak to what Nintendo should try to build with it then, or at least try to make a cardboard thing. Because if it's too difficult to build, then make a different thing for the software and make a different model. I don't think it has to be that complicated if they don't want it to be, if you know what I'm saying.
I think that's the problem with the Labo, though, is like, I mean, once it's all set up, I think it's perfect, and I don't have any doubts there. It looks super cool from everything that I've seen, and I have not heard a single negative thing about it. And honestly, they even said a lot of them aren't hard to set up, but I just think, like, if I'm told that there's a Nintendo add-on that's made of cardboard that's going to take me over an hour to set up, a part of me would be like, I don't know if I'd even, and it's $70. It's like, so I'm paying $70 to set up something for over an hour that's made of cardboard. The idea of that doesn't sound all that great, and because the question is, are the games going to be that great?
Well, the game's included in that, I'm pretty sure.
But are the games going to be like all that great too? Because it's kind of like what 1-2 Switch was. It's kind of like what these other things are. If you can really give me a
1-2
fun
Switch
game,
should not have been sold as a separate game. That's one of the things I don't like about the Switch.
Yeah, it definitely should not have. But I almost feel like, and obviously the Labo you're not going to sell with it. But the thing with the Labo is like, so you set up this fishing rod to fish, but it's just a fishing game. Or like with the robot thing, it's just like a robot game. Like these aren't full-fledged games you're getting. And so it's like you're paying $70 to set something up to almost play like a tech demo type thing. I mean,
well, we don't know if it's going to be a tech demo game or if they're going to have full games out there for it. I'm guessing it's going to be something kind of like a Wii Sports or like a Wii Play thing where you kind of have a general concept, but I'm hoping that they learned from that they can make more from it, I guess is a better way to say it.
It depends how they use it, because right now it just seems like it's mostly, like you said, like a Wii Sports thing, which again, when you talk about the setup, you talk about the $70, is it like, it's a cool concept, but it's like, is there really going to be a lot of support? You know, like I feel like, oh, I have my own fishing rod, it's going to be fun to play with for an hour or so, but after a while the magic of that is going to go away, you know? And it's that's like, fair. Is there something with it that's going to keep it like long standing? I think that's the question that I have for it.
The way I think of it, the way that I think about it is I think it's more the project getting there is more important than like the actual finished product, at least in my mind, because parents are always looking for things to do with their kids. Like that's just a fact. And if it's an active project like that, relative low cost and a bonding activity, honestly, I feel like it's just a great way to sell more of the hardware then. Because what is it? You got young adults like us, and we are the ones who are already buying the Switch. We already have a lot of the games that we would want. They start us off with enough games like Kart and whatnot. So we have games that we can play. We're enjoying the system. Now they're trying to make it for other people. But I mean, I think in that way, yeah, it does matter what they do with the games, possibly updating the games as well. But you know, it just, and at least in my mind, it's, I'm kind of trying to think of what you're saying, but at least in my mind, I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue, because I feel like even if it takes 30 minutes to build, it's not going to matter as much it's not going to matter as much to actually make or it's not going to matter as much for the finished product if you had fun building it on the way there. Because half the fun, at least in my mind, would be building whatever you're going to make to use in the actual game itself.
It could be fun, I guess. A part of me feels like with Legos it's different because you're actually like building and you see the product come together. Cardboard is just cardboard. I feel like that's just for me personally. You know, it's like you said, if it's like a family bonding experience, it's different. Mm-hmm. I just feel like folding cardboard to me doesn't sound fun.
Well, I know for me, like, especially with like the fishing rod and stuff, it's like there's the cardboard aspects, but then you also have to like be able to actually connect the string to certain places, so they require somewhat more of a setup than just folding the cardboard properly, because like I can't imagine actually taking 2 hours to fold just cardboard. But if I'm like, you know, constantly shifting things and like putting things in proper places, tightening stuff, whatever, because
yeah,
like I know like 2 years ago I wanted to get a desktop, so I was like looking at stuff and I'm like, I might actually try to build my own. That sounds like it's more fun. So I definitely see the benefit of building everything yourself, because I love building things. I'm like Nick. I still have some Lego things that I made. Like I have the Sears Tower sitting on my desk. So I definitely was a kid who, like, if you gave me the directions so I can like build something super cool, I would definitely put my time and effort into actually doing it. And then, you know, obviously I'm not playing with my Sears Tower, but I did play with all my Star Wars Legos things that I used to have before, you know, I tried to make them fly for real, and then, you know, they crash landed because they didn't fly properly. But I don't think, I'm just concerned that it is just cardboard, and I don't know how much use you'll be able to get out of them before having to repair them.
That's another thing too.
Like,
that is very
that's
true.
fair.
Because if it takes,
but it is low cost.
Right.
They said that they
it's
would.
low
replace
cost,
it.
but for me, like, say I deeply enjoyed playing the piano game. Like, that's my favorite one, and I keep busting the keyboard, so I have to keep getting new ones. If it takes me 2 hours to build that piano every time, eventually I'm just going to get annoyed. Because, like, if I was only building the same Lego ship every time, I would kind of, you know, it loses its luster every time you do it. So if I have to constantly rebuild this one thing, I can see it starting to fizzle out. And I know kids are super destructive. I know I was. Like, it's just what you do. You know, you're holding a fishing rod, you hit your brother in the back of the head when they turn around. Like, it just happens.
Travis is telling us exactly what what's going to be used for.
I mean, I will neither confirm nor deny these accusations that are being
what him and Cody are
going
to be doing after that. But okay, so I guess I was gonna say let's kind of move past the Labo, if anything. So I'm gonna throw in some of my last thoughts for it. At least in my mind, it's from a manufacturing standpoint, it's really good too, because it's easy to punch holes in like already made cardboard, and honestly, you can expand it pretty easily. You come out with more, honestly, Labo sets, and you just update the game. And so what is that? You update the game and there's just more cardboard. Kids grow up, you recycle the cardboard if they don't want to use it anymore. It's recyclable as well, so it's got the earth friendliness there. I'm with you, it can break, and I guess it does have some setup time, but I mean, I don't think that's enough for it to be like shot down as like a bad idea. I still think it's a really good idea, but yeah, I'm with you that there are negatives to everything, so yeah, that could be a potential issue that it'll have to run into, especially if like I don't want to say names, but if you're not careful, or at least if you're not careful with your games, stuff can break pretty easily. Controllers can break and whatnot. So I mean, it's a lot easier to break cardboard than it is to break metal or plastic. So yeah, that's what I think about the Labo. Yeah. But I was gonna say, Mike, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I pretty much said what I wanted to say about it. I feel like, because I get what you're saying, but like we talk about the recycling, talk about the fun building it, but at the end of the day, it's a video game product, and so like you only build it once, and if it's $70, it's building it for an hour and being able to recycle it later, make it a good product to buy. That's the only thing I'm thinking, because like again, I would just go back to the point I made with like the tech demo stuff. If you have a fishing rod, you go fishing in a game, how long does that fun really last, you know? And it's like, are these other things really even relevant as far as a good product? Because if you told me, oh, my Xbox One is fun, I can recycle it later, that's great, but if it's not fun to play, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Well, I guess if we do you want to move past the Labo topic then, and we can go on to some of the other parts about the Switch?
Yeah.
So, at least I guess for one of my other concerns that I want to ask you guys about is, what do you think is going to happen with mobile games too? Because the mobile market is still there, and I think it'd be smart for Nintendo to actually develop some games for mobile systems. Even though, again, like I won't really go out of the way and buy them, but look at Fire Emblem Heroes and how much good it's been doing. Honestly, if they start focusing some of the attention for mobile games, I'm wondering how it's going to impact the Switch. And I was going to say, I'm wondering what you guys think about that too, because I'm not sure where that's going to go. I
mean, I don't think they would like have a real impact on each other. I feel like they're pretty much separate teams that work on these things. So I don't feel separate. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, separate teams, yes, but I mean, like, I'm wondering if certain franchises might be more focused in like because I mean, they're both ways to play. At least I know phones aren't meant to be that way, but I mean, they're both ways to play games on the go. And I mean, at some point, it's like people might not even worry about getting the Switch if mobile games continue to still be on the rise. At least I think they're on the rise.
Yeah, I just feel like you look at like Fire Emblem Heroes. That's like nothing compared to, you know, like a real Fire Emblem game. I feel like phone games are fun because they're just like on the go stuff.
Right. They're things I play when I'm pooping.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's what phone games are. Like Fire Emblem Heroes is fun, but it's a game you play like when you have like a 10-minute break somewhere. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like that just could never replace an actual Fire Emblem game. At least, definitely not in my head.
Yeah. Well, they're making Final Fantasy games onto iOS systems as well. They're remaking Sonic games as well. So I was wondering what Nintendo's going to do about it.
Well, I know
like if Final Fantasy is moving to mobile.
Talking about doing a Mario Kart on the mobile.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So I'm really curious to see how that's gonna work out, because I mean, obviously racing games are everywhere, but I mean, I'm wondering like, will you have like online leaderboards and whatnot for Mario Kart on the phone? Like, that would be pretty crazy if so. You'd use a lot of data that way too. Now that I think about it.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a game that I'm not looking to snag on my phone, but that's because like I know I will play phone apps for like a week and then never touch them again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just what mobile apps are to me. It's like, oh, okay, what's number one this week? I'll download it and then get bored of it and then move on.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I played Temple Run once. I don't need to get Temple Run too.
Exactly.
There's really no point. But I guess
when you get 300 million on your score, you're like, well, I could play again, or I could just stop.
And I realized, just not really feeling this anymore. I just don't really ever get into mobile games. I remember I tried to when the iPod first came out, and I was really excited to be playing that. I saved up for it and everything, and I was just like,
back when Cube Runner was cool.
I was just like, well, not really feeling this anymore. It's not really doesn't really keep my attention long enough.
Right, because there's never any story, and then like the games are always repetitive. Like I know the apps that I typically always go back to are like Solitaire and those kind of games, just because.
Those are great ways to kill some time.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess also one of my last thoughts about the Switch is if they continue to make quality games, I think we're gonna be having it's just gonna be on the rise. I mean, I think our expectations were met. For me, honestly, I don't think the battery life is as bad, and I have taken my Switch a couple places and whatnot, and so I don't think the battery life's that bad. And it could be better, but it's not really that bad, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I think all of my expectations from like our very first podcast, I think they were a hit. They have the games, like they're fun controls. I don't like. For the stuff that I think it needs now, I think I need a Fire Emblem game. But besides that, I don't really think I'll need anything else from the Switch for a while.
That's exactly
the only other thing we haven't really talked about that's supposed to be coming out in the fall is the online subscription.
Oh, actually, yeah, we should talk about that. That's actually really important.
Yeah, because we say that now, but in a little bit, we're going to be paying for online. They're not just going to give it to us anymore. Mm-hmm. And I believe the last thing I saw was $5 a month is about what it'd be.
I thought it was 4.
4 or 5.
Here, I'll look it up really fast.
But yeah, regardless, it's going to be something that's cheaper than like what Xbox and PlayStation have. But the fact is, because the question I would ask is, does it feel like the Switch has enough on it to make you pay for online?
As of right now, actually, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Where's the Virtual Console?
Right. Well, I guess the Virtual Console would have to come with it, because they said one of the incentives of the online subscription service is you get one free NES game a month. They said, you get that rental game every month. And so if that's going to be a part of the service, then the Virtual Console would have to come out when the online subscription service comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So they haven't mentioned anything about Virtual Console, but I feel like that means it would have to come out by fall.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I will say this: the pricing for 1 month is $4, 3 months is $8, and for 12 months is $20. It's not a bad deal.
No, it's cheap.
I mean,
It's just-
if it makes the online quality better, I know I haven't really played Mario Kart Online, or I think I've played a little bit of Splatoon online, but that's it for terms of online games. But I've never been much of a online gamer when it comes to the Nintendo games anyway, because I usually prefer to do split screen Mario Kart over online, and
That's true.
Splatoon is better online, I'll give it that, but overall I never have a huge urge, but $20 is nothing. So as long as it keeps the servers actually not glitching out, because I know that was sometimes a big issue with the Wii U, is you'd randomly just servers would crash.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this: one of the things that we didn't really talk about a lot in the online stuff yet either is the whole thing with the service for games, I guess is the way to say it. Because businesses have goods or services, right? And honestly, I don't know, for me, I just don't like the fact of hearing a game as a service. I remember when we would rent games and whatnot, and I didn't really like that. I felt like I spent a lot of money renting games. It's nice to try out for a little bit, but renting games in my mind I feel like games only being there for a little bit, not actually owning the property. I just don't really like it. But then I have heard the point between you pay for Netflix, so I can understand where people are going for that. But if it was up to me, I would prefer to actually own the game and be able to buy it, I guess is a better way to say it. So I'm very curious if they're going to be able to address that concern, or if they are going to do that one free NES game a month, whatever. But I don't know. I'm very curious to see how that's going to work.
Yeah, I think I disagree about the renting. I think renting is obviously a good thing to have. I just don't think Nintendo is using it right, because the other two systems are offering you free games to buy, whereas Nintendo is saying you can have it for a month, but then we're taking it away from you. So it's I'm paying this online service, and you're basically telling me you can have this game temporarily and then purchase it separately, but you're already paying for that service, if that makes sense. And so that's what's weird about it. Whereas you have two other consoles that are saying, no, we'll give you the whole game. And not only that, but they're not giving you one game, they're giving you 3 or 4 games. On PlayStation, I'm paying $10 a month, but I'm getting 5 free games a month. And so I still feel like I'm almost getting a better deal on PlayStation, even though it ends up being I pay about $60 a month for PlayStation as opposed to $20 a month for the Switch, or will be. But I feel like I'm still getting a much better deal on the PlayStation. a year. But I still feel like that's a much better deal in that sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if you're really going for because I know some people will want just that one game, and buy that one game that was their childhood favorite. For me, I would probably go for Mario Tennis Power Tour, and I would want that one game. Which, by the way, I really want to see Mario Tennis Aces, and I hope it's good. I really hope it's good. There hasn't been a good Mario Tennis game in a long time, but either way, I just. I don't get why Nintendo's doing it this way. I guess. You still have the SNES Classic and everything, but I love the SNES Classic, but there's no way to update that, I guess, and there's no way to add more stuff on there if need be. But yeah, I just don't know. I just wish that they at least concretely say we are working on putting GameCube stuff on this or whatever, just to ease people's worries. We're working on GameCube Switch games or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I would love to hear Nintendo say, that so we can stop worrying.
Right. And who knows if Nintendo will ever do that. That's the one thing they're still kind of struggling with, is the communication on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like they're not letting us know a whole lot of what's going on production side. And which is bad, because Virtual Console was one of their biggest selling points at the beginning. And since then, there's just been nothing about it. And it's kind of well, can you at least tell me? If it's not going to happen, just at least let me know,
True. But yeah, I honestly just wish they would come out and say, yes, we're working on this, or something like that. And I'm guessing it's maybe they don't have their plans finalized, or maybe they just want people to be really maybe to think about it and make their predictions first, which I kind of don't like. But hey, that's what I would rather have my worries be eased and talk about how excited I am about a virtual console thing, or GameCube virtual console, and playing Sonic Adventure 2 on the Switch, rather than thinking about, well, is it going to make it on there? Huh. I'll wait for an announcement. It's just, I'd rather not wait for an announcement. I'd rather them say, yes, we're working on this, and here's the date when it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that would be nice. Who knows if that'll happen or not?
Probably not.
We'll see.
Oh, well, I guess I said most of what I want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I pretty much said everything that I needed to say.
Yeah. So the Switch
Sweet.
is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Switch is awesome.
Yep. So, with that being said, you can let us know in the description what you think about the Nintendo Switch, both like the past year and then everything that's coming out in the upcoming year. What games you're excited for, how you feel about the Labo and the online service. There's plenty of like positive things that have been happening with the Switch, and there's plenty of things that are in the future that seem like they can be like super awesome or super not awesome, depending on how things go. So far, though, they've pretty much nailed everything. So the way Nintendo's going, it feels like they'll probably just nail everything again. Who knows?
Hopefully.
But we shall see what happens.
Knock on wood.
So, yep. So with that being said, I'm out.
All right,
Bye.
peace.
See ya.